So it finally happened. You listened to the intrusive voices. You said, I want a Project XJ. How much trouble are you in? If you've been thinking about a project vehicle, maybe you've heard about the Jeep XJ. Lots of people probably told you they're out there, they're still fairly cheap, and they're pretty easy to work on. Well, all those things are true, but keep in mind, when you get a project car that's this old, you are getting a project car. If you think you're just going to jump in it and run with it for 3 winters and never have any issues come up, doesn't work that way. This is a 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJ 2-door. It's the last year that the XJs were manufactured, and it does have the AW4 automatic, which is less desirable. A 2-door with a 5-speed is pretty much everyone's wish list item, including mine. But when this came up for a really good price, and it seemed to have had a lot of drivetrain work done to it, I said, all right, let's see if we can get the cosmetics done and then turn this around for at least break even, because in the meantime, it'll be a fun project and some good content. Now this here is a 2001, sold off of a Colorado lot in January of 2001, so manufactured sometime mid to late 2000. Since I'm filming in December, that means this is very close to being 24 years old, and as we work on it, it's only going to get older. There are no newer ones than this. There are plenty of ones this old and older available for parts, and there are plenty of aftermarket parts solutions still available, although some of the good stuff is off the shelf now. No one can find a Bosch fuel pump anymore, although the Delphi thankfully is still available. Nobody can find the NGK/NTK oxygen sensors. The stock seems to have been depleted and is not being manufactured, so you've got to go with other brands. There are things like that that are just part of owning an old vehicle. If you're not prepared to deal with those, don't do one of these, get something newer. But if you want something you can work on and it's fairly easy, here it is. When buying a vehicle like this, I do recommend the Carfax. Even though you know you're getting an old beater, you still want to be sure of what kind of title issues you have, as well as any past accident history that may have been documented, as that may clue you for things to look out for. Now on this one, a previous owner apparently rolled it into a trailer hard enough that it caused some front end damage, and so that's why the header panel is unpainted and the fender and hood are mismatched. Antennas missing over there, those are things that are immediately apparent, so stuff like that, yeah, hopefully you see that right away, along with the missing corner caps and such. But there are other things to be looking for that may not be obvious right away. Now, one thing that almost broke this deal is that as a result of that front end hit, we do have the beginnings of damage to the frame horns. See how that's pushed in right there? That bumper bracket should just bolt right in. Now, it isn't bent on the bottom side, so it just started to push it over to the right. Over on this side, it's twisted in just very slightly by the steering box there, which the steering box is still attached normally, it looks like. Apparently that didn't shift around, which is good. But now looking on the other, opposite side of this frame rail over here, it's not pushed in over here. So the damage just occurred on the outside, and so I think the hit was slightly from the right. Then looking over here, same thing again. This frame rail is not pushed out quite as far, but it is pushed out a little bit, and you can see the bumper bracket is twisted. Still not 100% sure how I'm going to handle that yet. I think that is within the capabilities of Porta Power that you can get at Harbor Freight, for example, but it might be a job for a body shop. One thing you should be seeing that's fairly typical, it's missing the trim right there along the door and the front fender. Still has it there, although some models didn't have it at all and some did, and some people just remove them. That way it's not a spot to trap salt and dust. Another thing that's not obvious until the buyer handed me the keys, it's got 3. And again, that relates to some of the old accident history and possibly a break-in. The ignition is on 1 key, the 2 doors are on another key, and the hatch is on a 3rd key. So one thing we're going to have to be doing is buying a set of match lock cylinders. I don't mind having the ignition and the doors on 2 separate keys like I do on my current one, but I don't like having 3 keys. So let's just bring it back to 1 if we can. Rear wipers here, but as you can see, the hose and other attachment for the sprayer are missing, so that's something we'd have to get. This seal is badly crystallized and starting to fold up. That's something we might have to do something about, but again, this is complete unobtainium. At this point, you just have to take a generic weather strip seal and make it fit somehow. You can't just buy this piece for the 9701s. Clear coat peel on this side, it's much worse than on the other side. Another thing you might not see at first glance is there's a spot here where rust is starting to break through. Hard to say whether that's just paint or if maybe there's some past Bondo work there. Also, you can see an area here where some seam sealer has cracked out. So we'll want to grind into that as soon as possible and get that cleaned up. Likewise, if we open this door, this side, but not the driver's side, has a little bit of rust breakthrough just starting in the bottom seam. It's still at the point where we can fix it, but if it went much longer, it wouldn't be. On the bottom side, we do still have the original muffler, catalytic converters there. Hey, bruh, it says we missed one. Exhaust hanger is missing. He did warn me about that, say, hey, it's only held on by zip ties, you need to deal with that soon. But that little rubber isolator hanger that's back here, that's sold by Walker. It's very easy to get. It's only $30 or $40, I think. There's no rust on the undercarriage, surprisingly. No rust anywhere in the usual places, no breakthroughs on the rocker panels. All that part that can be a real nightmare to fix seems to be in good condition. Looking down under the bumper, no real signs of anything bad going on down here. The brackets are in great shape, meaning that whatever accident history it has, it's been repaired properly. Back here at least. Just minor surface rust starts that we can spray over to keep them from going any further. Nothing back there behind the fenders. They're still looking remarkably clean. Usually this is an area that rusts out. We'll still have to pull these off and see what's actually going on up here, but I don't see any breakthrough. Bushings in the rear leaf springs, they're not in great shape as you'd expect, but they're all there and they're not doing anything funny. Not seeing any breakthrough rust trying to crawl out from underneath the rear bump stops there. We'll have to take a look at those rear brakes because I do see some oil deposits back there, which might be a sign that a cylinder is leaking. This one over here, still clean. The axle has the usual surface rust, but nothing frightening. And he also put Bilstein shocks in it, which is nice. Now, one thing which you can see on the ground over there is there's a little drip spot. Previous owner did warn me that that was going on. He's pretty sure it's actually ATF coming out of the bell housing. So probably the front input shaft seal on the transmission needs to be replaced. That's certainly not a free job, probably several $100s at least, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Missing front quarter caps, although interestingly, the vacuum reservoir ball is still there along with the horn. Horn's cracked a bit on the bell, but that's not frightening. Another great thing about it is that nobody has tried to cut the fenders yet, and I want to try and do a restoration on this, not some sort of rip it up and rock crawl it build. Aftermarket LEDs, I don't think they're the expensive ones. I think they're the Amazon cheapies, but they work well enough to see at night. Doesn't seem to be much going on with the rest of the lights. They all worked when I checked them, apart from these corner ones, but that's an easy bulb replacement. This one here does have a big ding mark in it, so it's going to be taking on water. We'll need to replace that housing, but that's fairly available and cheap. This windshield seal is actually still available, amazingly enough, from Crown and a couple other automotive suppliers, about 40 bucks. So we'll probably pull this one to make sure there isn't any hidden rust starting to crawl back up in here. I don't see much going on. But there is one thing that is going to give us some fits, and that is this roof is breaking up everywhere and starting to get many, many rust spots, which means it needs to be cleaned down and sealed right away. There's a couple that are just starting to bubble. They're at the point now where if we grind them, they'll be okay, but if they go another season, the roof might be a loss. And then these protective strips, those are just gonna have to come off and go away. One more thing to note up here is that the luggage rack is trashed, sun-baked, and then it's missing one of the attachment points over there and the crossbar. So this one will probably just come off and get thrown away because it's not in great shape, and maybe we'll be able to still find another one. And then, as with all of these 9701s, the bad boot design has broken up. Somebody has already patched this through, but it looks like they've used a lot of twist and tape and who knows what else. Rear liftgate accessories seem to be working at this time, but that there is going to be one of our first projects because the electrical on these things, it's not great, and when it's left in sloppy conditions like we've seen on this one, it's where you can start fires. And clear coat peel on the top of the liftgate. However, one nice thing, these are here and intact on both sides. That's a fairly difficult piece to find if it gets broken or lost. The hood that was put on to replace it has some dings and damage, so that's an easy piece to replace. We'll probably just buy another one and possibly do the same for the rear bumper in order to do proper restoration. That's not going to just come out. That's a fairly stiff piece of steel, and once it pushes in like that, it's hard to push it back out. It's easier just to replace it and paint it if that's what you're going to do. So how much did we pay for this and why? Yeah, it was $1,500. Now, for a two-door, that's probably about right, even a rough two-door like this one. What convinced me to go ahead and buy it after looking at it was two things. Looking under the hood while the seller described what he did, and then test driving it, which proved that he was not making things up. This is one of the quietest, smoothest, best-running 4.0s and AW4 automatics that I've ever heard running around. My four-door, which is parked over there for the moment, even accounting for the fact that the off-road engine mounts made it a much rougher, noisier ride, and the fan, and the other things I've done to it, it's just not as smooth a running of an engine, and it's not as smooth a shifting of a transmission, even with the kickdown cable correctly adjusted by a professional. This here has about 146,000 on the drivetrain and a fully rebuilt top end. So let's see what's going on under the hood. Some things under here I really like, a couple I don't, but the ones I don't are far outweighed by the ones that I do. First off, things I don't like are this aftermarket K&N air filter. The stock factory box is far superior because it has a nice cold air intake right up under here under the hood. This here probably flows a little better, but I don't think it helps much. New power steering pump. New water pump. I don't know if it has a new harmonic balancer or not, but it's had a Barnes four-wheel drive steering reinforcement brace put in it. The steering box then has a new bracket that comes with that kit. The steering wheel is tight. There's no play in the U-joints at all. It needs to be aligned properly because currently the box is not centered, but that's easy. E-fan spins freely. And we're missing a fan shroud. This has been tied up out of the way at least, so small blessings. Mechanical fan seems okay. New serpentine belt. AC works, surprisingly. And supposedly it's also had a new heater core put in it. These are not the correct hoses with the clips, so I'll probably be looking at changing those out. Another thing to look for in a vehicle like this is what condition is the coolant in the overflow reservoir. Hard to get a proper view on it, but it is looking a little muddy down in there, so we'll clean that out and see what happens. Here's the vacuum line to the vacuum ball. That going around where it's supposed to, so it looks like that's all in good shape. Beyond that, there's some electrical connectors here that need to be retaped, as is always the case. Oil sending unit down here has been replaced. That down there, an actual Mopar branded oil filter. There's a lot of grease and oil down here from all the work that's been done, and so I'm going to have to take it to the car wash and really clean things out just to make sure that we're good. The only thing that does look a little dicey is these battery terminal cables here. This one, somebody either tried to solder that or it just plain melted itself off, but it's not doing much. This one here is okay, but it's not in great shape either. So that needs to be replaced fairly soon. Whew, this is a problem. Surprised it starts. It is missing the cover over here. I do not like that because that's a hot positive, so we'll need a cover for that and put it on there. Battery tie down missing. I thought I saw the bracket for this somewhere, so we'll have to try and find that. Over here, because it's an 01, it's got a couple extra bits of tomfoolery associated with the emissions. That seal there doesn't want to sit down anymore. It's not doing too bad over here on the sealant, but I do see that starting to crack, so that's a place where water can start to get into the cabin when that clayish substance there breaks away. Huh. Oil filter cap broken off. That's just the remnants of it, so we'll need to replace that right away. But overall, other than some wiring not being where it should be, it's a fairly clean engine bay. The only one that bothers me a bit is this is the positive lead for the starter cable. That should not be down there like that. We're going to clean that up before we drive this at all because it's all hanging loose down here and it's supposed to be tied up. Engine mounts are looking a little saggy and just starting to tear, so those and possibly the transmission mount will have to be done at some point. And I do see plastic cap busted loose on the back of the alternator there. We'll try and tuck that back up when we get a chance. Over on this side, everything's fairly clean. The only thing I noticed that bothers me in the short term, yeah, right there behind the differential. That's the lower oxygen sensor from the 01 manifold hanging loose. Same Bilstein shocks on the front. No leaking or weeping from the brake lines that I can see. They're a little rustier than I'm used to seeing in Colorado, but I think those will clean up okay with a little wire brush, maybe some black paint just to protect them from anything further. So far, no leaking out of the front axle seals. I don't see anything on the tube, although there's some nasty dangling down from the differential. And then right there, one of the old favorites, the breather hose is completely missing, so we need to deal with that pretty soon. Interior. Finally, interior. The door is missing a check strap, unfortunately, although the stereo has been redone. It also has a common problem with the two doors, that it's shifted this way a little bit over time, and as a result, the door striker is dragging. So might be able to tweak the door a little bit and fix that, but the most noticeable thing that we can see in here is no carpet. One bit of mercy is these are the original seats, so even though they're missing the plastic button here, as most of them are, these are the proper flip forward seats that are only available in the two-door. Really rough back seat. The previous owner did mention that he had put the metal console bracket down under here, which otherwise this would be flopping all over the place. Standard MP231 transfer case, everything else is there. The only thing that's really been updated is the stereo. This particular one, it looks like they used the 1.5 DIN pocket and bought an adapter that has like a little document or CD case under there. You could really see something getting lost back in there until you fish it back out with a wire. Kick panels, fuse door missing, broken. If we open the lift gate, missing one of the rubber stops there entirely. That's kind of important. It keeps the gate secure without slamming into things. This one over here is still present. It's getting gimpy, but those are cheap to replace and still available. Rear carpet also missing. The whole interior has been coated with a fairly hefty floor coating, which is actually kind of nice. It can be used to cover up rust, but based on everything else I see around here, as well as the previous owner's claims while he was working on it, I don't think it has any. And there's certainly nothing going on right here where this other plastic trim piece is missing. So some things to replace. Bad seat's an issue, but what I do like about it is this panel and this panel, even though they're badly scuffed up, are still there. Those are specific to the two-door, so if you're missing, they're going to be hard to replace. One little cover piece missing right there. Sure, we can find something. But yeah, seat's badly torn up. We need to replace that with something. And I'd like carpet back in it. Headliner's been redone. Missing the speaker grill covers, but it does have a working stereo, which is kind of surprising in one of these. Previous owner said that it does have the keyless entry board up there in the light fixture, which is expected, but of course the remotes are missing, so we'll either need to replace that or just live without it. So there it is, 146,000 mile XJ. Previous owner rebuilt the top end of the engine to correct piston slap. I believe he replaced the stock rods, used upgraded pistons. Apparently the guy likes working on small block Chevys, so he was kind of thinking about that as he did his work. Said he took the head in, had it Magnaflux, not cracked, so unfortunately it is the original 0331 head, but it has been checked and the machine shop said the valves were working perfectly, so take his word for it for now. Interior, rough. Exterior, got some rough spots, but for $1,500 I think we can get this going and all nice and clean for probably $5,000, and then maybe sell it for $6,000 or $7,000, depending what the market does in the next year, and if nothing else, maybe we'll break even. So we'll see, but that's a Project XJ, and if you're thinking about getting one, keep in mind everything we just saw on this, because you'll find some that are cleaner and some that are not. The ones that are cleaner are about 3 to 4 times the price I paid for this one. Has anyone seen my phone?